Welcome back, YouTube. In preparation for some bullet casting videos that I want to make coming up here soon. Well, hopefully I'm going to be doing some cast bullet range testing. Probably starting off with the SKS and then move on to the K31 and a few other things. Today what we're going to be doing, we're going to be processing down raw beeswax into a product that we can use for bullet lube. Now, I know to some of you this may be a considerably mundane subject. However, hopefully I'm going to show how this is done. You're going to need a few basic tools to do this. You're going to need, of course, as you can see, I have a giant box of beeswax that ammosmith.com forum member was gracious enough to send to me free of charge. So I thank him for that. You're going to need your beeswax. You're going to need your double boiler rig, which in this case, as you can see, my Fry Daddy is on and warming up. We're letting our water warm up, and I have my 8-inch cake pan, and as you can see, I've got some other wax that was there before. We're just going to go ahead and incorporate that into our beeswax mixture here, which that's not going to make much of a difference in terms of viscosity and bullet lubricant capabilities of this lube. Okay, you're going to need, well, you may not necessarily need it, but it helps to have one of the silicone dishes. If any of you saw any of my other bullet lube videos, in fact, in the background there, you can see I have some 160 grain cast bullets that have been pan lubed, and they're sitting up to cool off. So the silicone trays come in real handy for that. But as you can see, you're going to need a silicone tray. You're going to need your turkey baster. Okay, that was also in the other video. You're going to need some sort of straining device. In this case, I have an old coffee strainer that I wasn't using, so I'm hoping I'm going to be able to strain a lot of the garbage out of the beeswax using the strainer. If you don't happen to have a strainer, you can use, a tea strainer, like Pat stuff in his videos, where he talks about, pan lubing. He uses a tea strainer. That's perfectly acceptable for straining all the garbage out of the beeswax. You can also use some cheesecloth, because it's very porous and it'll allow the wax to flow through the cloth, and you should be able to retain a lot of the garbage. So that's a few of your straining options. I'm going to go ahead and start adding beeswax to this rig, and we're going to get it nice and melted down, and we're going to proceed to strain this stuff, and we're going to use the silicone bake dish to pour it into sort of an ingot, so to speak, where it can be broken up into smaller usable pieces. And of course, you can pour the beeswax into any shape you want. So like if you're wanting to make bricks of lube for your lubicizer, all you have to do is get a piece of conduit like Ammosmith does and just pour it, and you're good to go. So I'm going to let this thing come to temperature. We're going to add some beeswax, and we're going to come back to it. While we're waiting for our beeswax to come up to temperature in our double boiler rig, I thought that I would talk just for a minute about commercially available bullet lube. This is the Javelina 50/50 Beeswax A-Lox bullet lube. Essentially, you can buy this stuff from Midway. This is what it looks like. And of course, this would fit in the newer Lyman lubicizers, and other lubicizer devices. And I tell you, boys and girls, this stuff is expensive. I think one stick of this stuff is like $4.50. So you're going to see the savings factor, with making your own lube if you have a good source of beeswax. Essentially, all this lube is liquid A-Lox laced with beeswax in a precise mixture. That's all it is. Okay, in case any of you are wondering exactly how beeswax is harvested, you should know, but in case you don't, it's usually harvested by beekeepers, and what they do when they go to harvest their honey, they have what they call and you beekeepers out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's called a decombing knife, and it's a sharp knife that they basically decap the honeycombs with. And as you can see, these small, areas here, you can see the shape of the honeycomb where they took the decombing knife or decapping knife, and they basically just cut the top off of the honeycomb so they can withdraw the honey. Either smaller beekeepers will let it drip out, or some will have these centrifuges that they go into, and it'll force all the honey out. And then they just replace the trays, you know, back into the hives, and then of course they're refilled. All right, YouTube, our beeswax has melted down into the nice little bubbly mixture you see here. Now I do want to mention, you want to take your little spoon or something and scoop up all the little dead bees and critters and leaves and crap. As you can see, I've got some coffee strainer filters here, coffee filters. I'm going to try some of those too. So just go ahead and take your spoon, get all your little crap out of there, you know, as best you can, because you don't want to clog up your turkey baster. I do want to mention also that if you scrape along the sides and the bottom of this cake pan, you're also going to get dirt and debris and everything from the beeswax, and it looks kind of like this. Okay, get all that crap out of there too. You don't want that in your bullet lube. Okay, so we're basically just trying to clean out all the garbage we can. I'm gonna guess that gunk in the bottom is probably like debris from leaves, dirt, just all kind of random stuff. And as you can see, it's pretty gross looking. So get all that crap out of there. I'm gonna go ahead and clean the rest of this garbage out of here, and we're gonna go to straining. Alright, I'm using this little coffee strainer here to strain this beeswax. You're gonna get a lot of garbage and crap in it. That's okay, that's what the strain is for. You're getting all the dead bees and dirt and debris and everything out of there. Hopefully you can see this straining through. You can use any kind of strainer you can get your hands on. This is just an old coffee strainer nobody was using. In a minute I'm going to try these coffee filters and see if the filters make any difference in terms of the way this stuff strains. But as you can see, I've almost got a silicone dish full here. And you know, if you look at the 1 ounce tube of the Alox bullet lube that I showed you, at $4.50 a tube, you know, that's pretty expensive. This stuff here, I mean, I've probably already got at least a 1 pound tray going, so the cost savings, you know, become clearly evident, you know, when you look at all the factors involved in it. Now, as you can see, it is a bit of work. You know, you're going to get some burned fingers, you're going to, you know, have to wait around for the stuff to come up to temperature. But ultimately, see, look, there's a dead bee on the end of the strainer. But ultimately, it's really worth the time and the effort to do it. You know, especially if you know a good beekeeper that can supply you with all the beeswax you need. You should be able to shoot cheap. You know, you're casting your own bullets. All you're really out of is a primer and some powder. So, you know, and as James has made quite clear, Ammo Smith, cast bullets have their limitations, disadvantages. But ultimately, I think the advantages and you know, good points about bullet casting and shooting cast bullets outweigh the bad things. It's kind of a dark art, and it's gaining popularity now. But bullet casting, at one point, was, you know, started to become sort of a lost dark art that people weren't really doing anymore. With the current state of the economy being as it is, and being the availability of components is limited, people started, you know, have started doing more bullet casting than they have in previous years, just so they can even, you know, shoot their guns. So this is pretty much it. You just pour you up an ingot, let it sit up here, and then you got, you know, bullet lube you can break into pieces and mold as you see fit. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of garbage here in this strainer that. But here we have basically pure strained beeswax.